We'll talk about the incomings first. I want to start with one that I like personally. Marco Haller to Bora through 2024. Don't know the sum. I think it's a really good signing. He's 30 years old. I really liked his domestique work in the Dauphiné where he didn't have too much support. 10th at E3, G1 for a time with turns at Tour of Flanders. I think it's a great signing both for leadouts, both for train control in stage races, and then to help Polit and co at Paris-Roubaix.
I think so as well. I think he's a rider that has performed very well in one-day races this year. Honestly, his Tour of Flanders result does not display the strength he showed in that race, because I swear he was much better than the 40th that is on that page. Wasn't he in like that group with Turkey and so forth?
He was with MVDP, Asdrun, Alaphilippe, and Turkey.
How did he end 40th?
I don't know.
Like, nope, I'm done. Anyway, good result there. At least good race, not a good result on paper, but 10th in E3 as well. So he can perform really well in those races. I have not really checked their cobbles team for next season, but I'm guessing that Polit is still the leader for that, just missing that Sagan. Although Sagan was not at top level in those races this year due to his COVID stuff. Yeah, I think that it's a good addition for the cobble team. Like you said, for the leadouts as well. I think that he's a good domestique. And I think that he's not necessarily a great climber, but on hilly terrain, he can survive. And if he can survive a bit, he can work for people there. So I don't think he's going to be paid an incredible much. I think he's kind of the 2018 Drucker at BMC back in the day. That kind of rider, where he could also do well in one-off races, but also support the team in other places. And that's why I like the Haller transfer as well.
You know, there's sometimes you have the best sprinter on the day. It's all lining up well for you, but you just don't have someone to control a late attack in the last 8Ks. You need someone to do the dirty work at a shoulder pressure when a strong rouleur attacks. That's where I see Marco Haller in that shoulder pressure team for Bora with Sam Bennett, just doing that sort of work. Maybe they even want him to be third last man in their lead out as well. The signing I do like is Bennett. I think it's very, very curious from Bennett's perspective. But from Bora's perspective, it's a fantastic signing. Bennett, he's top 2 sprinter in the world. He is capable of winning Grand Tour stages regularly, multiple in a year, without a train. Quick step effect, I know, quick step effect is a real thing. Viviani, Gaviria, etc., Cavendish. But at Bora in 2019, Benji, he won stages with little train. And I think he's having knee surgery apparently, so his knee is kind of a problem.
Yep.
But in principle, I like the signing. What do you think of it?
I actually have the percentages here when it comes to the victories that he has versus the sprints he rode. I prepped this like a few weeks ago. Keep in mind that these percentages do not consider the race situation. So if he, for example, starts a sprint in 12th position or 15th position, this doesn't count that. If he rode a sprint, how many percent of the sprints he rode, he won. That's these percentages. Bennett won 70% of the sprints he rode in 2021, 35% last year at the Koenig, and in 2019, 42%. So between 2019 and 2020, there's barely a difference there. And I think that this year was just phenomenal when it comes to the Mirko Bennett duo, because they just kept on beating everybody
outrageous
this year. But like honestly, in 2019, 40% win rate on the sprints you ride, that's pretty fucking great. And yeah, it's not like he had a team and Bing Bang Tour that was all destroying when it comes to the lead out. So he performed very well there and was one of the best sprinters that year.
You look at the steep drop off at the Tour and the sprint field competition once Ewan and Merlier leaves. I have Ewan Bennett, then a gap, Merlier, gap to Ackerman and all the rest, and Cavendish and co. I think, Bennett's quality, and I don't know what they're paying him, but it's not even that long a deal, Benji. It's only 2 years, so he's 30 years old. It's not like they're paying a sprinter for a 5-year deal where he could be really bad the last 2 years. Maybe, what's weird to me, Benji, though, what is weird, right, is, and I know Benji and I obviously think Lefebvre's comments were disgusting the other day, and before even that article, Benji and I think we did a podcast being like, what he's saying about Bennett is borderline defamatory like 2 months ago or 6 weeks ago. And so, obviously the way Lefebvre's handled himself is terrible. That being said, it is curious the return to Bora. He left under a bit of a acrimonious circumstances in 2019 because they chose Ackerman. They just, according to Ackerman, lied to Ackerman about promising him the tour.
Yeah.
And now Bennett's going back to Bora. I think Rudiger Zerlig is leaving without too much lead out. So do you even think, are you seeing a potential for another blow up if they take their cast of second tier GC guys to the tour and no Bennett?
Well, we see today in the Vlasov signing, because I don't know when this video is going to be uploaded, but when we are recording this is on the day that Vlasov signed for Bora, which means that in the press release, they're talking about the Tour de France as being the goal for Vlasov. So if that is the case, then you'd likely have a team supporting Vlasov at the Tour de France. And you've got Bennett, who likely won't have crazy support then, because, I don't know, they won't fit a 5-man sprint train in the Tour de France
Germans get
team.
Priority at that team.
Vlasov not German.
but like Schachmann, if he wants to go, he goes. Bookman, if he wants to go, he goes. And Kamnet as well. You think they'll commit to Vlasov, give him a 5-man support?
I think he's the best GC rider on the team.
Yeah, true. I mean, it makes sense.
What do you think of the support for Bennett in the sprints?
I think it's bad, the support. I think their lead out that they brought through from, the Conti days. I love those guys. I love that story. They're all getting a little bit older. Schwarzman, I think, and Schillinger, I think, is retired, poor guy, because he had that crash. I think he's retiring at the end of the year. So that squad of veteran lead out guys are leaving or disbanding. And he's bringing Danny Van Poppel. Has he ever done a lead out in his life? Probably overpaying for him because he is a sprinter at Intermarché, and remains to be seen whether he can do a lead out. Ryan Mullen, he's been signed because he's Sam Bennett's mate and he's Irish. He's probably De Bora. Think if you sign one of the best sprinters in the world, Sagan or Bennett, you obviously have to then sign their best friend or brother. They don't you don't have to come as a package. You can just say, hey Sam, we're signing you. We don't think no, I'm sure Ryan Mullen's a nice guy, but come on. If you're going to have him as your man at 3Ks in the lead outs, I worry for Sam Bennett next year. So that's my answer, Benji. I'm a bit concerned about Martin Lars. I think is the best last man. Martin Lars, UAE for Ackerman, I thought did some good lead outs. Ackerman just stuffed them. He's I don't want to say, I'm not saying slow. I'm saying he has a steadier acceleration than someone like Danny Van Poppel.
Merkel style. Merkel is not explosive in his leadouts, but
100%.
He has a way to worm his way through the group, and he finds a way through the group more through intelligence than through pure power. And I think Lars, like you mentioned, is more of a type of rider that does that, while Van Poppel feels more surgy to me. I'm going to say an atrocious comparison, but Van der Poel, when he does a lead out, he's very surgy, and that's causes the sprinter that he's in front of to always be on a bit of a gap, going into a corner, be caught behind another rider suddenly because the other rider, the lead out, was a bit too fast. And if Van Poppel does the same, has such an explosive sprint, then that could be troublesome as well, So that's how I see that aspect. And I agree, Lars would probably be a good option, but I also want to see Jordi Meus again to try and have him as a lead out a bit more, because he has decent lead outs, big guy, like you said. And I think he has had the weakness all year where he has weakness on hills, it seems a bit, but then you've got a result in Provence where he's good on the first hilly finish. So it's a bit inconsistent in that aspect, but obviously you don't get a lead out to get over the hills. Obviously, it's handy if they do, but...
Well, that's the thing. Sagan would have won easier at Catalonia, but Meus couldn't do a lead out, I think, as Benji said. So, yeah, he's got to work. I mean, he's a big boy, so maybe... I think he's going to be better at Shell de Presse style races anyway. If Bora can have Martin Lars, Meus, and Co. and Haller at Shell de Presse working, I think if Ewan's not there, he cleans that up by 3 bike lengths, to be honest.
First barrier. Is he not a better option at the job that Mullen is supposed to do?
Yeah, of course. Well, controlling a breaks in the last 10Ks?
Yeah.
Yes, obviously.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Mate, I'm not the one that signed him. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't get put in the same team. I'm not sure.